Seoul University and its branch Eurasian Research Institute. So in today's our invited speaker is Professor Asma SALMAN. She's an expert on blockchain technologies and many issues that we are newly learning about blockchain development, especially in finance. So Professor Asma SALMAN is a professor of finance at the American University in Emirates and honorary global advisor at Global Academy of Finance Management USA. When we look at the briefly, her academic career, she finished MBA in Finance and Accounting, has a PhD in Finance from AACSP member, and currently she works in the American University, but has a position in several universities and institutions, which are mainly concentrated on finance, economics, and blockchain. So we are familiar with the finance and economic sector, but the blockchain is newly developing and is the era of, some say, new revolution. So I believe we will hear a lot of new knowledge. We will gain lots of important information from you as well. What's this blockchain, how it's used, and possibly in your presentation, I think we will see something about cryptocurrencies as well, or not. We will see, but this is not a financial advice, so we warn you, all of our listeners. So without further ado, I want to give the floor to Professor Asma SALMAN. Floor is yours.
This is a pleasure for me to take part in this International Congress on Economics, Finance, and Energy, and that is happening right now in Turkestan, Kazakhstan. I would have loved to be there, but due to some commitments, we are connecting. The world is global, so we are connecting online. So I am currently based here in the United Arab Emirates. I'm originally from Pakistan, and yes, I have a keen interest on blockchain and the impact of that. So I will be taking you through, and please do let me know if everything's visible, then I will go ahead.
Yeah, everything is visible, no problem.
Great, thank you very much. So as you heard in the introduction, my main area is finance, which has now diverged into fintech, or something from financial perspective. We want to understand the impact of the digital transformation through blockchain technology. This has had various impacts around the world, and I'll be covering few parts of that. These are my credentials. You please do feel free to reach out to me also if you wish to through email. So like I said, we're going to have a bit of a digital transformation. We're going to touch upon the statistics parts. We're going to touch upon blockchain. We are also going to look a little bit into cryptos. Again, I totally agree. This is not financial advice. This is just the means to let you know what alternatively is happening in the world of finance. Now, a lot of people may agree with it, and a lot of people may not agree with it, and that's totally fine, because what we have known over the past 200 years, that there is only one proper financial system that goes through banking. I'm going to touch a little bit more about that. So just to give an idea, and I'm sure that the august audience that I have here has been through reading, or perhaps, has been an overview going on about the digital transformation, not only through the pandemic, but a little bit before that, about 2015. There was a lot of talk about a revolution in the way things are done. So, there are rise of fintech hubs, bank techs, supervisory technology, regulatory technology, tech giants. The businesses that are happening right now are a far cry from what was happening just 10 years ago. It has given rise to some new, technocrat technocrats, some techno giants. It has also given rise to some of these entrepreneurs, and they have found an alternative way of financing using the blockchain technology. Hence, we cannot say that the blockchain technology is only impacting the finance area. It has far-reached impacts. We call this something like a digital disruption, innovations that are leading the industry. But the idea is everybody ready for that? The thing is that all of us, we get used to our comfort zone, and anything that goes out of that comfort zone becomes a little bit of a push and pull. Do we want it or do we not want it? So there is a lot of potential, but the thing is, are we making the most through the incubators? Are we making the most of this? Is the market ready? Do we have consumers for that? Like I said, I am based here in the United Arab Emirates. This is pretty much considered to be the hub of innovation. So in the words of our ruler of Dubai, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, we shall work on building innovation incubators, specialized education programs in schools and universities, and global partnerships with the best centers and institutes. This is a message to the nation and to the world to come together and be part of this innovation, the road to innovation and technology. Now, let's look a little bit about what the technological revolution has been there. There has been mobility that we have seen in the past. We have seen big data. There's a lot of research around big data happening. There is machine learning, artificial intelligence, drones and robotics, cloud computing. But what really has brought the revolution is the blockchain. Now, of course, then the question comes in, what really is blockchain? So it's a continuously updated record of who holds what. It's pretty much simply said, it's a record and it's one block on top of the other. So to understand this phenomena or the power of blockchain, as they say, it's important to distinguish three common things that are used interchangeably but have different meanings. The Bitcoin currency. Now, there's a lot of talk around the Bitcoin currency, especially, well, it started in 2009, 2010, or perhaps even actually end of 2008, early 2009. And that is also the time, I don't know if you remember, that was the time of the financial crisis. So there is some link here that we need to understand, that there was a financial crisis happening in 2008. And then came the white paper by somebody called Satoshi Nakamoto in end of 2008, early 2009. So the Bitcoin currency, the specific blockchains that underpins it, and the idea of blockchains in general, there is a distinguished thing around that. Blockchain is used to mine Bitcoin, but that is not Bitcoin itself. So there has been some connotations around that. So what we are now moving, and I'd love to have questions towards the end, but I'll also pose a question and feel free to respond to that as needed, and then we'll get the questions in the end. We are now moving from internet of use to the internet of value. So this is really the second generation of the internet. We had a lot of internet use, input the data, and then we have all that information. Now we want to make use of that internet with value. So the question that I have really, and maybe most of you would remember that, there was something at a time, even before Google, there was something called Alta Vista. Now, that Alta Vista, believe it or not, couldn't Alta Vista itself. So right now we have this connotation that we say, okay, let's Google this, right? Because we have input of information there. But Alta Vista at one point of time didn't have that information. So there has been a huge surge from the time of Y2K1 bug till now. The internet has only evolved. So now it has gone into the internet of value. Now, how does that happen? The internet is full of information. You've got website photos, PDFs, information, email slides, the one that I'm sharing with you right now as well. The whole idea with the internet of value is that when I give you an asset, it remains with you. I have to pay less and you get more. How does that happen? Now, you will notice that if we have to go and do any small transaction, you will see that this huge distributed ledger with millions and millions of computers, everybody can use them, from music to money to anything can be stored, moved, transacted, all without powerful intermediaries. What I'm trying to say is, when we make a transaction, it goes through a central body. And that central body then releases that amount of money to the receiver. If you remove that central body, what happens is that you pay less and the receiver gets more. That's the whole idea of digital disruption, or something that we want to call a decentralized approach. So the idea over here is anything can be stored, moved, transacted, exchanged, and managed without the intermediaries. So what are we talking about? Free flow of money, free flow of trust, of value. Who controls it? Who owns it? Where is it? And how do we control it? These are lots of questions, unanswered, some of them. Some of them I will answer if you have those questions for me. The idea over here, again, goes back into the decentralized approach, where there is a mining happening and a block is being verified for a transaction. It goes to the next one, and then the next, and then the next. What happens over here is whoever verifies that block gets perhaps commissioned or paid in that particular blockchain. I'll try to explain that a little bit more. I've got a very good example of Ethereum coming up for you. So we need to understand that this is the first time that we are seeing peer-to-peer transactions with the trust, but we'll touch upon what happens in fraudulent situations. Again, I'm touching up the point of 2008 financial crisis, and then the digital money came up. Since January 3rd, 2009, Satoshi Nakamoto came up with something called Bitcoin. That Bitcoin initially was having, there is a certain limitation in the economy for that, in the digital economy, I would like to call it. And then there was a certain time limit. Each 10 minutes, there would be a new mining happening. That has not stopped since January 3rd, 2009. So for the first time in human history, we have noticed that people can trust each other and transact peer-to-peer. Trust is established by collaboration and by, of course, cryptography and coding. So there has been a trust protocol within these elements in the human industry. This is what we are talking about, blockchain revolution. This is the second revolution after the internet. It will do for transactions what internet did for information. So when internet put all that information, and we have that and we can Google that easily, we are anticipating that blockchain is doing the same for transactions around the world. So how does it work? Assets, digital assets, like money or music and anything between them, is not stored in a central place, but distributed across the global ledger using a high level of cryptography. When one transaction is conducted, it is posted globally across millions and millions of computers. The Bitcoin miner, like you and me, have massive computing power, and they will go ahead and verify that block. This mining was very much happening very strenuously since 2009. It has slowed down because the number of Bitcoin have already been mined. So every 10 minutes, a new block is created. And the first one to validate that block is rewarded in digital currency. In case of Bitcoin blockchain, it would mean Bitcoin will be rewarded. In case of Ethereum blockchain, it means Ethereum would be rewarded to you. Then that's linked to the previous block and then to the previous, and then a chain is created, something which is called blockchain. It is time-stamped and sealed, which means that if anyone would go ahead and want to undo a transaction, they have to go back to all these millions of computers, all these people, and involve them into this process. So you can imagine that the possibility goes very minimum. This is one good example of the blockchain technology and the cryptocurrencies. How this happens: somebody will request a transaction, it will go through a validation process, then a verified transaction will happen. This will then go into the cryptocurrency. It does not have any physical form. Again, it could then be governed also through your own softwares that you have, but the mining part has a lot of hardwares for that. And anyone and everyone you would know is able to do that. I would just like to touch upon one more point. The e-wallets, or the wallets that are created, and we all know we live in a world where there are lots and lots of unbanked people. The population of the world, 2/3, perhaps more, do not have access to the real economy, which means that they are unbanked, which means there's a lot happening, but they couldn't open a bank account. So how can we make them part of the real economy rather than regressors of the economy? So the e-wallets that I just talked about takes less than 6 seconds to create. So you can imagine the differences between what we're trying to project here. So the alternative economy, are we talking about the project-based economy, that you could be a freelancer and doing projects and still be having a different kind of a income stream than a 9-to-5, or are we going towards gig economy? Are we working towards circular economy? So these are all questions that all of us need to understand when we talk about decentralization. This might have gone through you. It was shared many, many times. Something which is called Bitcoin, which has considered to be a virtual currency, touted to be the world's biggest bank with no actual cash. Uber, Kareem, you name it, there's lots more coming up. Again, a taxi company with no vehicles. Same goes for our internet in terms of Facebook. Many, many more are there as well. Other people create that. Same goes for Alibaba, the world's most valuable retailer, has no inventory of its own, Airbnb, and so on. These are few examples. Some are really big in terms of their net worth, in terms of their value. So we need to consider and understand where the world is going towards. Let me also share some examples, very interesting ones. One is about title deeds for the case of Republic of Honduras. Now, in Honduras, and I'm sure in many parts of the world, there are issues related to title deeds. And what happens in title deeds? That it goes through generations after generations, and somebody changes the name, and then that, that property is no longer in your name. So, I mean, many cases in the courts going on for those countries. Title deeds, when they go on blockchain, they're immutable. They cannot be changed. It has to go through a long, rigorous process to do that. So it's actually going back into the first era, when anybody who used to just talk and give their word would remain as is. So this is also immutable. These title deeds, the case of Republic of Honduras, so they actually removed a lot of ministries in between. They removed a lot of, offices, regional offices, and so on that were responsible for it, and they put it on blockchain. And a lot of people had benefited from that. The remittances, $600 billion industry, the remittances that go around the world. This data might have even increased because you know how quickly we would have remittance data change. And the fee that is applied to that can be reduced to 2%. So let's say you're paying $100, you'll end up paying $2. There's a huge difference in the remittance fee. We need to understand the people who are, like I said, are considered to be regressors of the economy, no longer have a problem of how the money is reaching them, whether it's through a bank, whether it's through a financial institution, whether it's through an app. They would have these remittances with a lower fee. Then we have something called data, which is virtual you owned by you. So you have a lot of data, like I give you the example for some of the, the giants that we have. This data owned by you is one of the application of blockchain. Similarly, I'll share one very interesting example here. Yes, this chicken that you're seeing over here, this chicken is on blockchain. And believe it or not, I got this picture actually from CNBC, and then later on it was actually shared in one of the Financial Times articles. These chickens glow on blockchain, and we're talking about food security here, which means that they would have these chickens go on blockchain, meaning where they were born, what kind of food they ate, where they were migrated from, etc., etc., etc. The entire value chain or the supply chain of it, which goes on to these to see how safe they are for consumption. So there are many different examples for that. Moving ahead, there was something that Klaus Schwab said as the fourth industrial revolution at the World Economic Forum. That there was industry number one in the 1700s, 1800s, we had industry 2 revolution, third in the 1960s, and now we have the fourth industrial revolution. We are at the brink of this technological revolution, which is going to change the way we live, work, and relate to one another. In this scale, scope, and complexity, the transformation will be unlike anything humankind has experienced before. So you can see over here that how much this has changed over the number of years. Let's also go back a little bit into accounting and have an idea about how this is going to go on further. So we have in 1494, we are talking about Luca Paciello. He had outlined the basic accounting system, which is called the double entry accounting system, which talks about debits, credits, and the trial balance. Since that time, very little has changed. But let me remind everyone, and maybe some of you would have that idea, there was something called the triple entry accounting system back in the 70s, but it really was never adopted. So now that thing is coming back, or let's say being revolutionized through the triple entry system of accounting. Technology evolved from paper to digital ledgers. Automation was required to make it faster, quicker, with less errors, and to find and correct mistakes more easily. But otherwise, it is fundamentally the same. So in the triple entry accounting, you will see there is a company ledger over here. There is a blockchain. They are both going towards that. and they go back to the company ledger for the other company. So instead of having the double entry, we're talking about triple, we're incorporating, embedding blockchain, and we are removing the margin of error. Then a question might arise that what will happen to the accountants? Well, we'll come to that. This is a timeline for the developments, and you can see over here, I can share later on these slides if you would want with everyone, if you may want to go back to them. You can see that there has been a movement, an open source movement in the 1940s for cryptocurrencies or cryptography. Then in 1980s, what happened, of course, into the cryptocurrency world in 80s, 2000s, the P2P network and the manifestos that happened in the 1980s. 2008 till 2015, we can see there is a huge difference that happened that was uncalled for, that happened in the 1990s. So we got Bitcoin coin transactions, the market exceeded $1 billion, and then we also had initial coin offerings, something called ICOs instead of IPOs. Blockchain platforms and smart contracts were there, 2017, 2015, 2017. And then, of course, we also had the expansion of blockchain. Then the scaling happened, which are the future developments right now, that the blockchain scaling is happening beyond the financial world. So which means that it is going on perhaps to transactions, like I said, for title deeds, for property, for educational degrees, you name it, and they have gone into these future development. This is taken from PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. It's available over there as well. I'll touch a little bit about the UAE and the work that has been going on over here since I'm based here. And there's a lot of interesting information, interesting time to be, especially in Dubai. So we've got pillars of the Uae Centennial. There is a, believe it or not, there is a government strategic plan until 2071 for everyone aware. So it was a 50-year plan. It started in 2017. It was for the next 50 years, which had 4 basic pillars where now the country is revolutionizing all its abilities and resources. Future-focused government, excellent education, diversified knowledge economy, a happy and cohesive society. These are the 4 main pillars which the government has put all its resources into. So the adoption of blockchain aims to contribute to one of the 4, which centers around education, technology, and even the diversified economy. Talking a little bit about the fintech or the financial technology or the umbrella and what really fintech would be all about, it is at the core of the business and is now utilized to assist businesses, business owners alike. Fintech has revolutionized the way the world works today. It has created the most sought after disruption in global finance. Let's look at the trends in the UAE. So we have the region, which only represents about 1% of the world's fintech, but the Middle East is rapidly growing and their compound annual growth rate is about 30%. It is estimated that by 2022 that we are in right now, we will have 465 fintech firms, which will generate about $2 billion of investment capital. This is in comparison to only 80 million 5 years ago. And where is the artificial intelligence growth? So one of the forecasts is that the market is expected to climb over $39 billion in size in 2025. According to Tractica, the global AI software market intends to have a massive growth to about 126 billion by 2025. So we can see the massive impact and the usage that is happening for blockchain and AI in the market. So where do we stand globally? According to the UN, the E-Government Development Index, UAE ranks 6th in the world for implementing smart services. second in telecommunication and infrastructure, and regionally, the UAE leads ahead of Africa, West Asia, Arab, and the Gulf. We talked about the impact of the businesses, the blockchain, the impact it will have, what the businesses need to do. They need to investigate the potential role of it. It is going to have a mass adoption sooner than what we can think about it. So what could be some ways forward? Funds for innovation. I know that we all do budgeting, and those budgets we need to abide by, but there is something called innovation. So there should be some budget for that, funds for that. Hackathons could be another way of bringing all the pool of people together. It could be youngsters, technocrats, people from the tech giants who are going to supervise them, and people from the business field. That is going to create a conglomerate for all of us. Future is digital and the economy is gig. Mobility, right now, also we are connected only through technology. The transformations for a business world. So you can see that I've got the, the lamp here from Aladdin, and we want to understand where we're going from here. We need to protect the rights through immutable records. Now, those are through blockchain. Creating a true sharing economy, not sharing one strata of it, but at the impact of the economy. Ending the remittance payoff. The remittances are huge. The fees are huge. We want to reduce them by 98%. Enabling citizens to own and monetize their own data. That is happening somehow, but not to its full potential. Perhaps we're using only 10% of it. Ensuring compensation for the creators of value. Now, what is happening around the world? Some of the examples include blockchain-based IDs and identities are happening. The Eastern Europe or the Eastern European countries are doing a great job with that. Estonia especially, they have e-government on blockchain. They've got smart contracts on blockchain. By the way, even when you hop onto an Uber and you call an Uber, you hop onto the Uber, they drop you somewhere, that's also a contract. It's a smart contract. E-governments, blockchain passports, like I said, Estonia is again another good example for that, and blockchain projects. Like I said, and I like to say that a lot, the future is now. So these are some of my handles. If you would want to get in touch with me, please do feel free to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your quite interesting and with lots of information, including presentation, which I believe got the attention of many people, both technically and the, let's say, common persons who just hears the word of blockchain in the TV. Thank you for that. I have some questions, if I can ask. So, as we're mentioning that this blockchain technology is potential could revolutionize many things, as we know, since the concept and its technical part could be used almost anywhere that we currently use. So they could develop the systems we are using, make it easier for many, for example, less developing countries, technological infrastructure, allow them to just skip this current step to the future, we can say. So probably they don't have a bank account, but they might have crypto wallets, so they could receive their money or send money between them. So I have, on that point, I think it's great. And we also, when we look at the global index of crypto adoption, we see that many developing countries actually adapting much faster.
Right.
One of the way is due to the devaluation and stable coins. Second way is to see them as a way of transmitting. For example, as you said, for example, the president of El Salvador said that with the usage of Bitcoin as a transaction for remittances, they are planning to cut almost around $400 million as a saving budget. So it's a huge money, I think, for a country like El Salvador. Or we can extrapolate this into many places, like in Mexico, they have also Bitso and other places. So my question is, finally,
Yes.
yeah, in this, how do you think the real life usage of these crypto wallets? Because I could send you, you could receive it with just few cents, maybe below cents, but you need to use it your daily life to buy a food, for example. We still need to rely on banks. How do you think we can solve this issue? Or
Thank
we
you.
need to develop another technology, or the current intermediaries will be enough?
Excellent. I think it's a very good, you have given me a background information and how we're moving ahead. That's true. And you rightly pointed out, actually, the developing countries are depending upon it more. I'll share another example before I go to your actual question. The country of Venezuela. Venezuela, as we all know, and the hyperinflation that was going on over there, they have actually reverted back to these cryptos because they were decentralized and they were out of the sanctions, if I may say. So that helped a lot of people. The question is, how can we use this in our daily life? We've got examples, especially in the United States, where some students have taken this as their project, not to spend any dollar, but to use cryptos to see if they can go around their day or not. And it was very interesting because people have bought houses through cryptos. In Winter Olympics, the players were paid through cryptos. And also in our daily life, you're quite right, we have the main financial intermediary that is going on, which is, of course, our banks are the best example of that financial institution. The transaction still goes, I'll buy, so I will use some currency to buy that stable coin or Bitcoin or whatever that currency that I'm trying to have. That transaction remains. The idea is how quickly we transform completely onto that. So that's why we still have both going on. So let me go back really at the beginning, which was the barter system. Barter system was, of course, exchange of goods and services, that I have something that you need and you have something that I need. That was the barter system. Then we went into currencies, to coins, then to currency notes, then to plastic money. And now we have gone into digital money. So the idea is, are we going to eliminate what we had before or add on to that? That question remains. How much of an adoption will be there? How many e-wallets will be there? And the security people will feel. What is happening right now? Me and you, we want to open a bank account. We go to the bank. We pay some fee. Some banks charge, some don't charge. But we pay them to take care of our money. So the decentralization changes that, or aims to change that no longer require any amount, but requires your trust that you would go ahead with this. It might be a long shot, but what was predicted in 2015 and where we are now, we've got these good examples, like the example of the student that I've shared. He would go out and even he's having dinner with friends, he would make a digital transaction to his friend with the worth of that amount of money that he needs to spend, rather than spending. So this was a complete project which students found very interesting, and they applied it over their studentship, being a student. I hope I covered some parts of the question.
Yeah, you covered greatly with an actual example also. also, in order to please our audience, if they are eager to know some more about the cryptocurrencies, and if you also follow the news, the ETH merge is coming. So they are going from proof of work to proof of stake. About proof of stake, what do you think? Is it going to be a more decentralized, or it's more going to centralize the system? How do you think about the validators? If you like to answer.
Good. Yes, I would like to. I'm sure that you followed and a lot of people might know. The same thing which is considered in one country as an asset is considered controversial in another country. It's considered to be, okay, you can go ahead and do your investment, and for the other country, they have a completely different regulatory bodies there governing that. Now, proof of stake or proof of work before, of course, that is into mining and then going on to proof of stake, it is important from the regulatory perspective. Now, many of the websites, because I've been to many when I'm creating or doing some transactions, I have seen many which would require that and many which do not. The question still remains, it's pretty new still. Like I said, we're comparing a 200-year-old history of how financial institutions work and how we are here. Especially in the UAE, there is a lot of proof of stake. That has helped a lot of people. But not to forget, we have seen examples early on where people had a lot of cryptos in their wallets and they forgot the password. So that sometimes, you know, is very, very painful. So yes, it's good and bad, or pros and cons everywhere, but we want to understand what is better and faster and gives back to the developing world. I think that's the key here. The unbanked people, how can we make them part of the society?
Again, it was an excellent answer. I get more than I asked. Thank you for that. And as a final thought, what do you think about the future of the blockchain and the potential of DeFi? Some say it's going to crash in short term, some say it's the future. So what's the middle point here? If we can hear shortly your thoughts, and after this question, we can announce our session as closed.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you very much once again for that question. And I completely respect both sides. Yes, some people think that no, it's not going to move on forward, and some have huge potential with DeFi or decentralized finance. Actually, decentralized finance or DeFi has actually grown over the number of years. I have seen that intense push from the younger generation. Now, some people also are of the belief that the children being born right now will never see a bank growing up. So again, that may be a long thought, because of course we understand how the central banks of the world and how that banking industry is being impacted. Decentralized finance, as far as my personal opinion is concerned, is here to stay. It is not going to go back. We might have some regulatory conditions, or maybe we were having some standards related to that, but it is not going to die down. It may, like many other bubbles, we have seen some crash happening, but decentralized finance, in my opinion, is the future.
Thank you for the answer. I also think that DeFi has a big potential future ahead with some minor regulations, not too much. I believe this Wild West will turn into some future gold mine for many who will use for technologically and other purposes, let's say. So in today's session, as invited speaker, Professor Asma SALMAN gave a wonderful speech about the blockchain. We talked a lot of issues, cryptocurrencies and others. I again thank you for your answers and your speech. And if you have any last words, we can take it, and then we will announce this session close.
Thank you so much. And I would once again like to thank you for inviting me, for being part of this session. for organizing it to begin with, to all the organizers, the participants, the audience, for their questions. Please do feel free to reach out to me. I've had a pleasure being here with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. So with these final speeches, I announce this session as closed. Hope to see you in other events. We will definitely get in touch with, I believe, Professor Asma SALMAN in future scientific projects as well. So hope to see you in other events. So goodbye.